I remember my mother always, her banking was wrapping her leftover money in her handkerchief and putting it in the drawer. That was Mom's bank. I didn't have a bank. You know, in those days, we didn't have the child labor laws. So we could work when we were 14 after school, and whatever money we made, we brought home. And it was part of the family affair. And that's what we did. There was, the allowance you got was like Helen said, you got money to get back on the streetcar and for your milk or part of your lunch. It was all family at that time.
Well, looking back in Brooklyn, I remember it was the East New York Savings Bank. Once a week, they used to come to school and we'd bring a nickel and we'd put it into the bank. They wanted to encourage us to save. And those nickels added up. Maybe at the end of the year we had $2 if we had that. But it was encouraging saving and things like that. And I know that many of our families didn't want to put things into the bank because they didn't trust the banks. I mean, it was one of those things. Now, what about clothing? You as the youngest.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it seemed you had like 2 pair of shoes, maybe. And most of my clothes were hand-me-downs. You know, for girls, I was bound to have a nice wardrobe. And my parents did save them from one child to the other. My dad was a shoemaker, and he would repair our shoes. And Mom sewed. She was a good seamstress, sewed clothes. So I had a plentiful wardrobe.
If you were the youngest
Yes.
child.
Yes.
What about you people? Did you have flower sack dresses or anything?
No.
No.
No, that we didn't have. But I had a lot of cousins, and more or less we got a lot of their clothes that they no longer wore. So that helped out a lot.
My mom sewed.
Okay.
Mine did sewing, and she did all the handiwork, so that's how we had our clothes. And as far as shoes, you needed shoes. You got a pair of shoes for Christmas. That was your Christmas
That
present.
Christmas gift. You're right.
That was during Depression. That was a real rough time. Some people made it, others didn't. My mom and dad were lucky to keep their home. They didn't have to foreclose. And I lived in that house till I moved out here.
Well, I know you're talking about, you know, shoes and everything. I remember going to the Five and Dime, and we used to pick up a little kit where we glue the soles on the bottom of our shoes. And later, as I grew up, to preserve the heels on it, I put taps on my shoes. This way, the heels lasted longer. It was an interesting.
We used a lot of cardboard.
Cardboard.
Cardboard in our shoes.
What about gifts? Giving gifts to people. How did you circumvent that situation?
Well, that part we didn't do.
You didn't,
No.
okay?
As far as gifts, no. Well, of course, I had an aunt that lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and at Christmas time, she'd always send us a great big box for homemade cookies and a gift for every child in the family. And that was, but as far as sending back, we couldn't afford sending anything back.
So you were just grateful.
Absolutely. Yes.
We sent cheese, eggs to any of our relatives as, you know, as Christmas gifts. That was appreciated because food was hard, you know, to come by, and we had enough of it to go around.
Well, I have a memory. My grandparents had a farm, and of course, we were very fortunate when they slaughtered a pig. We got the meat, or if a calf was slaughtered, we got it. But we used to bring chickens home. My father used to put them in the trunk of the car, and we'd bring the chickens home, and the neighbors used to come to our house and just bring them down. And the neighbors would have meat. So it was really kind of interesting. Is there anything else that you can recall which would help how your family coped then and now? Or I should say then, not now.
You had to do what you had. You coped, and that was it.
Right.
But we got by. We all survived. But I'd never want to see it again, believe me.
And there are some that are facing it right now.
That's right, and I feel very sorry for these people.
Would you have any advice for people today on how to cope? We've all gone through it. We realize what our parents did and how much they did love us. They denied themselves to give us. Is there any advice you would give to people today to cope with the situation as it is now?
I think families need to kind of get back together again with each other. There seems to be so much apartness today with one child being here. We don't have family dinners anymore together. Everybody's eating at a different time in a different location with a different program going on. So I think for us, we need to get back to family relationships.
That's a very interesting fact.
I can just say, spend just what you think you can afford. Never overspend. And you'll get by.
Get away from the credit card.
Yes.
That I never believed in.
Oh, you don't? You don't?
No, never the credit cards. My husband and I, he says, we have the money, we can get it. If we don't, we'll have to wait until we do have the money. But we never did believe in credit cards.
You don't have one today either?
No, I don't.
God bless.
No.
How about you, Helen?
I have a credit card, but you can use it if you use it wisely. It's a good thing to have. I think the children now, I don't know if it's their fault or is it our fault that they are so accustomed to getting things that they can't wait. They have to have it right away. And we didn't. We saved. If you had the money, you'd buy it. If you didn't, you
waited.
I think we can all agree with that. I mean, we learned frugality, simplicity, and it brought happiness because when we did get it, we really appreciated what we had. Okay, that was the worst of times. Right now, we're heading into, hopefully, the best of times. We just had the election, and we have now a dramatic change in American history. What advice would you give to the President of the United States when he takes office to help the economy, to help families? What would be the advice you would give? Doris, you had mentioned something.
Yeah, I think we need to get back the jobs that we lost, and we need to maintain those jobs to save our economy so families can survive.
Cut back your campaigning from 2 years to 1. 6 months wouldn't bother me if you cut back up to 7. It's too long, too drawn out. You're repeating, and then you're starting to nitpick one against each other. That's not good. Put out the good points in yourself and then just quit it. That's my advice.
Well, I have a good feeling about this change. And I do think it's going to be for the best. It won't be right away. Could maybe take 2 years or so, but we will see it coming back for the better.
I give this young man great credit for even wanting to be a president at this time. I mean, things aren't really rosy here, and yet he was fighting so to get the presidency. So I wish him all the best of luck in the world. May God be with him.
True, amen.
That's right.
It is really true. He has a job ahead of him, and as you said, it is not going to happen today, tomorrow, in a week, or the first 100 days. It's going to be a period of time because we have to go through the legalities of Congress and law and everything. But it is looking up, and I think the world is smiling on the events that have taken place. And I think if we look at further what Charles Dickens said, he said it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. And although this did refer to the French Revolution, I think we can apply it to the world today, and we are looking forward to a brighter, happier future for ourselves, our grandchildren, our children, and all the peoples of the world. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, ladies.